Harper, you're done here. The words hit me like a punch to the stomach. Trent Lawson stood across from me in the glass-walled conference room, his hands folded on the table with fake sympathy. Behind him, the HR representative avoided my eyes, shuffling papers nervously. I could see my own reflection in the window, face pale, eyes wide with disbelief. Just 30 minutes ago, I had presented the campaign deck that saved Northbridge Creative's biggest account. The Haven Resorts team had practically applauded. Now I was being fired for breach of conduct. My throat tightened as I tried to process his words. "You're serious?" I managed to whisper. Trent didn't blink. That's when I noticed it. The client file on his desk with my name scrubbed off and his signature stamped across the cover page. He had stolen my work. And now he was throwing me out to protect himself from whatever scandal he had created. My hands started shaking. The HR representative, a woman named Valerie, slid the termination form toward me like she was passing me a death sentence. My eyes scanned the words, but nothing made sense. Fabricated complaints, falsified evidence, data misconduct allegations that never happened. Trent leaned forward, his voice dripping with false concern. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be, Harper. Sign the form, take your severance, and we can all move on professionally." The arrogance in his tone burned through my chest like acid. I wanted to scream. I wanted to flip the table and demand answers in front of everyone watching through the glass walls. But something inside me stayed calm. Something calculating. I reached for the pen with trembling fingers and signed my name. Because right then, sitting in that humiliating moment, I realized something crucial. This wasn't the end of my story. It was just the beginning of his nightmare. I packed my desk in silence while co-workers whispered behind their monitors. The girl who got fired. The woman who must have done something terrible. No one knew the truth. No one knew that Trent had fabricated every single accusation to cover up his own ethics violations. No one knew he had stolen my campaign, my ideas, my 100 hours of work, and claimed it as his own vision. Security escorted me to the elevator with my cardboard box of belongings, family photos, coffee mug, my awards from the past 3 years. As the elevator doors closed, I caught Trent watching from his office window, that smug grin plastered across his face. He thought he had won. He thought I would disappear quietly, broken and humiliated. My name is Harper Quinn, and this is how I took everything he stole from me and tripled it for his biggest competitor. This is how I destroyed him with nothing but strategy, patience, and the contacts he never knew I had. 2 months before the firing, I was Northbridge Creative's rising star. At 29, I had brought in more revenue than anyone else in my division. I didn't play office politics or waste time on ego battles. I just delivered results that made clients happy and campaigns that actually worked. Trent Lawson, my boss and the creative director, loved taking credit for both. Every client meeting I closed became his success story. Every innovative concept I developed became his strategic vision. At first, I told myself it didn't matter. I was young, building experience, learning the industry. My time would come. But I was wrong about how this industry worked. At Northbridge, loyalty only flowed in one direction, straight up the corporate ladder. The people below you were just stepping stones, disposable resources to fuel someone else's climb. I didn't understand that yet. I still believed hard work and talent mattered more than manipulation and theft. The Haven Resorts pitch was supposed to be my breakthrough moment. It was the biggest account of the year, worth $3 million in billings. I had built that entire campaign deck from scratch, worked 100 hours across 6 weeks. Market research, creative concepts, social media strategies, media buying plans. Every slide was mine. The night before the client presentation, Trent called me into his office. "I'm going to take it from here, Harper," he said, reaching for my laptop. "You've done great prep work, but this pitch needs senior leadership presence." I thought he meant he would present my work to the client while crediting me as the creator. I actually felt proud that he trusted my campaign enough to present it himself. I handed over my laptop without question. That was my first mistake. I didn't realize he meant taking it, period. Taking my work, my ideas, my strategy, and erasing my name from every single page. The Haven Resort's presentation happened in Northbridge's largest conference room. I sat in the back while Trent commanded the room with my campaign lighting up the screen behind him. The clients loved everything. The brand positioning, the creative direction, the innovative social media integration I had spent weeks perfecting. When the Haven CEO asked the question I had been waiting for, "This is brilliant work, who's the creative mind behind this concept?" Trent smiled that politician smile and said, "My team executed beautifully, but this vision came from my 15 years of industry experience." Then he looked directly at me across the room, his eyes daring me to challenge him in front of the clients. I smiled back because I learned something crucial in that moment. Trent didn't just underestimate me. He didn't see me as a threat at all. To him, I was invisible, forgettable, easily replaceable. That was going to be his fatal mistake. I stayed quiet for 3 weeks after that presentation, pretending I didn't notice my name missing from internal reports. Pretending I didn't care when Trent got promoted to senior creative director based on the Haven success. Then the email arrived. A confidential memo from HR accusing me of unauthorized data access and sharing proprietary client information with outside parties. The allegations were completely fabricated. I had never leaked anything to anyone. But the complaint came from a Haven Resorts contact, someone I had never even spoken to directly. Trent had created a false paper trail to justify firing me before I could expose what he had done. HR called it grounds for immediate termination. They scheduled the meeting for Friday afternoon. And that brought us back to where this story began, with me signing that termination form while Trent watched with satisfaction, thinking he had buried his crime along with my career. I sat in my car in the parking garage for exactly 7 minutes and cried. Hot, angry tears that blurred my vision and made my chest ache. Then I stopped. I wiped my face, checked my reflection in the rearview mirror, and took 3 deep breaths. Because underneath the humiliation and betrayal, something else was forming. Clarity. Cold, sharp clarity. I didn't need Northbridge creative. I had built my skills and reputation long before Trent tried to steal them. But Northbridge needed me more than they realized. Every major client relationship I had built over 3 years. Every vendor connection I had cultivated. Every creative partnership I had nurtured. Those relationships were mine, not theirs. They existed in my head, in my phone contacts, in 3 years of coffee meetings and late-night brainstorming sessions. Trent had stolen my campaign, but he couldn't steal my network. And that network was about to become his worst nightmare. I disappeared from the industry for 3 weeks, deleted my LinkedIn profile, changed my phone number, ignored emails from former coworkers asking what happened. I needed complete silence to think strategically. Revenge wasn't about screaming or public confrontations. It was about precision, patience, and understanding exactly where your opponent was vulnerable. I spent those weeks reviewing everything I knew about Northbridge's business model, their client list, their pricing structures, their weaknesses, the accounts Trent had neglected because they weren't prestigious enough, the vendors he had underpaid and disrespected, the junior creatives he had stolen ideas from and then discarded. He made lists, drew diagrams, mapped out relationships and opportunities. By week 3 I had a strategy, not a revenge fantasy but an actual business plan. And it started with one phone call I had been avoiding since the day I got fired. Atlas Marketing called on a Tuesday morning. Their VP of Strategy, a woman named Alexis Porter, had heard through industry contacts that I was available. "We've been watching your work at Northbridge," she said, her voice warm but professional. "The Haven campaign was exceptional. We'd love to discuss opportunities here." I didn't tell her what really happened. Not yet. I just asked, "When can we meet?" The interview happened 2 days later in Atlas's downtown offices. They were smaller than Northbridge, but sharper, hungrier, more innovative. The executive team actually listened when I talked instead of just waiting for their turn to speak. When Alexis offered me the role of senior project lead with full creative authority, I smiled. They had no idea how personal this mission was about to become. I accept, I said, shaking her hand. When do I start? She grinned. How about Monday? That gave me exactly 4 days to prepare for war. Atlas marketing was everything Northbridge pretended to be. The creative team collaborated instead of competed. Leadership valued ideas over politics. Nobody stole credit because success was measured by results, not ego. My first week, I sat in on client meetings and strategy sessions, learning how Atlas operated. They gave me freedom, resources, and a clear challenge from the CEO, a straightforward man named Marcus Webb. We want to take market share from Northbridge, he said during our one-on-one meeting. They've dominated the mid-tier luxury market for 5 years. We need someone who understands their playbook. I smiled, thinking about Trent's smug face the day he fired me. I can help with that, I said carefully. Marcus studied me for a moment. Good. Show me what you've got. I didn't tell him I had already started. The night before, I had made my first contact, reaching out to a former Northbridge client Trent had ignored for 2 years. They remembered me, and they were very interested in talking. I didn't steal data or hack files. Everything I did was completely legal. I used memory, relationships, and 3 years of industry knowledge Northbridge never thought to protect when they fired me. Every client Trent had ever dismissed as too small. Every vendor he had treated poorly. Every creative professional he had burned. I reached out to them, not with revenge stories, but with genuine value. Better pricing, more attention, actual creative innovation instead of recycled concepts. One by one they responded. A boutique hotel chain Trent had called beneath Northbridge's standards. They signed with Atlas after one meeting. A restaurant group that complained about poor service from Northbridge for months. They jumped at our proposal. I wasn't burning bridges. I was rebuilding them under a better foundation. And Trent had no idea what was happening. Not yet. But he would soon. Very soon. 6 weeks after I started at Atlas, whispers began circulating through the industry. Northbridge was losing accounts. Small ones at first, the clients nobody important paid attention to. Then mid-tier accounts started leaving. Fitness brand. A regional retail chain. A tech startup that had just secured Series B funding. Trent blamed his account managers. According to my former co-workers who still texted me secretly. He fired 2 assistants and demanded the team work longer hours to stop the bleeding. He never suspected me. Why would he? I was just the girl he had fired and forgotten. The whispers reached me through coffee meetings with old colleagues. He's panicking, one designer told me. Screaming in meetings about loyalty and competition. It's getting bad. I listened sympathetically and said nothing, because the truth was I was just getting started. The small accounts were just practice. The real targets were coming next. 3 months after joining Atlas, our quarterly numbers came in. Revenue up 42%. Client retention at 98%. New business pipeline stronger than it had been in 5 years. At the executive meeting, Marcus stood up and smiled at the room. Whoever's driving this growth deserves a crown, he said, looking directly at me. Harper's strategic approach to client development has transformed our competitive position. The team applauded. Alexis winked at me from across the table. I stayed quiet, smiling politely. This wasn't about glory or recognition. Revenge wasn't loud. It wasn't public celebrations or social media posts. Real revenge was silent, strategic excellence that dismantled your opponent piece by piece while they struggled to understand what was happening. Trent still didn't know I was behind Northbridge's decline. But he was about to find out. Because my next move would make it impossible for him to ignore me any longer. The industry conference happened in October, 6 months after my firing. I almost didn't attend, but Alexis convinced me that Atlas needed visibility. I walked into the hotel ballroom during the networking reception, and there he was. Trent Lawson, holding court near the bar with other creative directors, laughing too loud and drinking too much. He saw me before I saw him. I watched his face change, confidence draining into confusion and then something that looked like fear. He excused himself from his group and walked over, trying to look casual. "Harper," he said, his voice brittle. "I heard you landed at Atlas. That's great." I sipped my wine slowly. "It's been good," I replied calmly. "Really good, actually." His eyes searched my face for anger or hurt, but I gave him nothing. Just professional pleasantness. "Well," he said awkwardly, "I hope there's no hard feelings about how things ended at Northbridge. Business decisions, you know." Smiled. "Of course. Business decisions." He walked away looking unsettled. But let him wonder. That night, Trent emailed me from his personal account. The message was carefully worded, disguised as professional courtesy but clearly meant as a threat. He wrote about industry ethics and fair competition, suggesting that soliciting former clients inappropriately could damage my reputation. He never directly accused me of anything specific, just vague warnings about professional boundaries. I read it 3 times, then deleted it without responding. Because I didn't need to fight him with words or explanations. His email proved something important. He was scared. He knew what was happening to his business, even if he didn't understand the full extent yet. And scared people made mistakes. Trent's biggest mistake was thinking I would react emotionally, that I would defend myself or lash out. Instead, I did nothing. I just kept working, kept building, kept executing the strategy that was slowly destroying everything he had built on stolen work and lies. Silence was more powerful than any response I could have written. 2 weeks after the conference, Alexis called me into her office with an opportunity that felt like destiny. Atlas had been invited to pitch for Haven Resorts' expanded digital marketing program. Yes, the same client Trent had stolen from me 9 months ago. The same campaign that had earned him his promotion. Full circle. "I want you to lead this," Alexis said, sliding the brief across her desk. "You know their brand better than anyone." I picked up the folder, keeping my face neutral even though my heart was racing. "I'd be honored," I said. She smiled. "Good. We present in 3 weeks." This time I wasn't pitching for approval or validation. I wasn't hoping someone would notice my work. I was reclaiming what had always been mine. And Haven Resorts was about to learn the truth about who had really created their award-winning campaign. Every strategy, every creative concept, every word. Me. Not Trent. Never Trent. The Haven pitch went perfectly. Our strategy was sharper, more innovative, more aligned with their growth objectives than anything Northbridge had delivered in month mills. Interrupted with a question. "Before we continue," she said, glancing at her notes, "I need us." Midway through the presentation, Haven's marketing director, a sharp woman named Patricia, to address something. "Your former employer told us you were terminated for leaking proprietary data. Can you speak to that?" The room went silent. Alexis looked at me with surprise. I had never told Atlas the real story of my firing. I took a breath and pulled out my laptop. "I'm glad you asked," I said calmly, opening a folder I had prepared for exactly this moment. "I was actually fired because I discovered Trent Lawson had stolen my work and fabricated complaints to silence me. Here's the proof." I showed them everything. Email timestamps. Original file versions with my metadata. Screenshots of internal messages. Calendar records proving Trent had accessed my work after I submitted it. The evidence was irrefutable. Patricia's expression changed from skepticism to fury as she reviewed my documentation. "This campaign we've been running for 9 months, she said slowly. Trent presented it as his original work." He nodded. "Every element was mine." He erased my name and took credit to secure his promotion. She closed my laptop carefully. "We'll be in touch, Harper." The meeting ended abruptly. Within 48 hours, the story broke across industry news sites. Haven Resorts had launched an ethics investigation and terminated their contract with Northbridge Creative. The headlines were brutal. "Agency director fabricates firing to hide scandal." Stolen work, stolen credit. Inside Northbridge Creative's ethics crisis. Trent's name trended on social media. His face appeared in every article. And I hadn't leaked a single thing. Haven had done it for me, outraged at being deceived and determined to protect their own reputation. Sometimes revenge didn't require your hands to get dirty. Sometimes you just had to light the match and let the truth burn everything down. The fallout was catastrophic for Northbridge. 3 major clients pulled their contracts within a week. Shareholders demanded explanations. The board launched an internal investigation. Trent was suspended pending review, escorted out of the building by the same security guards who had walked me out 9 months earlier. He tried calling me 17 times. I blocked his number after the first 3 attempts. There was nothing he could say that would matter. No apology would undo what he had done. No explanation would justify his choices. He had stolen my work, destroyed my reputation, and thrown me away like I was nothing. Now he was facing the consequences while I continued building something better. Atlas won the Haven contract with a proposal worth $4 million. Marcus promoted me to VP of Strategy. But the real victory wasn't the title or the money. It was the silence in my head, the peace that came from knowing I had rebuilt my career through skill and integrity, not theft and lies. By December, Northbridge Creative was hemorrhaging. Their revenue had dropped 38%. Half their client roster had either left or was actively exploring other agencies. Every account Trent had bragged about securing. Every relationship he had claimed as his personal achievement. Most of them came to Atlas. Not because I poached them, but because they had always valued the work I did and now knew where to find me. The rest went to other competitors, unwilling to trust Northbridge's damaged reputation. Industry analysts called it a spectacular collapse. Business journals published case studies about the dangers of toxic leadership. Trent became a cautionary tale, the ambitious director who destroyed his own company by stealing credit and fabricating scandals. And through it all I just kept working, building campaigns, serving clients, leading my team, doing exactly what I had always done but finally in an environment that valued it. Atlas Marketing tripled its revenue by year-end. We expanded to a second office, hired 20 new employees, won industry awards for campaign innovation. Marcus gave me equity in the company and full authority over our creative strategy division. "You saved this company," he told me during our year-end review. "We were struggling before you arrived. Now we're thriving." I smiled, thinking about how different this felt from Northbridge. "I just focused on doing good work," I said. He shook his head. "It's more than that. You built relationships, delivered results, and did it all with integrity. That's rare in this industry." The truth was, my success at Atlas had nothing to do with revenge. Revenge was just the catalyst that pushed me to leave a toxic environment. The real victory was discovering what I could accomplish when I wasn't being held back by someone else's insecurity. Trent hadn't just stolen my campaign. He had stolen years of my potential by making me doubt my own value. Now I knew better. The official announcement came in January. Trent Lawson was terminated from Northbridge Creative effective immediately. Not quietly with a severance package and a mutual separation statement. Publicly, with a board letter citing ethics violations and breach of professional standards. The same HR representative who had handed me my termination form, Valerie, escorted him out of the building with his personal belongings in a cardboard box. Former co-workers sent me photos. The symmetry was almost poetic. Everything he had done to me, repeated exactly, but this time he deserved it. Industry contacts told me he was struggling to find new work. His reputation was destroyed. References wouldn't return calls. Interviews went nowhere once potential employers Googled his name. He had built his entire career on stolen ideas and manipulated credit. Without those tools he had nothing left. No real skills. No genuine relationships. Just empty ambition and a ruined name. I felt nothing watching his fall. Not satisfaction. Not pity. Just complete indifference. A week after Trent's termination, an envelope arrived at my Atlas office. Handwritten address, no return label. Inside was a single sheet of paper with 4 words in Trent's distinctive scrawl. Harper, you won. Happy now. I stared at it for a long moment, then dropped it in the recycling bin. Because he still didn't understand. This was never about winning or losing. Never about happiness or satisfaction. It was about justice. About refusing to let someone destroy my career and reputation without consequences. About proving that talent and integrity ultimately matter more than manipulation and theft. Trent thought this was a game with winners and losers. But it wasn't a game. It was my life, my career, my future that he had tried to steal. And I had simply taken it back and built something better than anything he could have imagined. That wasn't winning. That was surviving. That was thriving despite someone's best efforts to destroy you. Trent would never understand the difference. 14 months after being fired, I launched my own agency. Quinn & Company opened with 3 employees, 5 clients, and a mission statement that meant everything to me. Integrity scales. The name came from a lesson I learned through this entire nightmare. You could build a business through theft and lies, but it would eventually collapse under its own corruption. Or you could build through genuine value, real relationships, and honest work. That foundation would support unlimited growth. We grew fast. Former Atlas clients followed me. Industry professionals who respected my work joined my team. Within 6 months, Quinn & Company was profitable and expanding. Sometimes new clients mentioned Northbridge during discovery meetings. We heard they had some problems, they would say carefully, watching my reaction. I would just smile and redirect the conversation to their needs and goals. Because the greatest revenge wasn't destroying Trent or dismantling Northbridge. It was walking away and building something so successful, so respected, so fundamentally better that they became irrelevant. It was rising so high that when they looked up, they couldn't even see me anymore. That was the real victory. Not vengeance but transcendence.